Competition Tribunal has given the sale of Burger King by Grand Parade the go-ahead with conditions. According to the Tribunal's website, the deal was approved on Friday with no specification on what conditions were put in place. However, Grand Parade has been trying to sell Burger King since the early 2020 in a deal that would allow it to pay down debt and resume dividends to shareholders. Now, in June this year, the Competition Commission, which makes recommendations on mergers, blocked the deal on concerns that it would reduce the BEE shareholding from 68% to 5%, even though 99% of Grand Parade shareholders wanted to sell. Burger King, wanted to sell Burger King, I beg your pardon. Now, the turnaround in the Commission's decision comes after an outcry from business leaders who pointed out that the decision would make it harder for black business owners to sell their assets and would deter foreign investment. The Competition Commissioner, Thembinkosi Bonagele, joins me now to talk about this and more. Of course, you can be a part of this conversation tonight by sending us your questions and comments on WhatsApp, 072-110-5584. Commissioner, good evening, and thank you very much for your time joining us today on In Focus. When you decided to focus on the equity portion of public interest as part of your criteria, did you envisage that this redistributive measure would receive such a backlash, and particularly from the business sector, deeming it not necessary or desirable, particularly in our current economic climate?
Yeah, it is expected. This I didn't even consider it as a backlash. There is this narrative in South Africa that black people don't have access to capital, and therefore they cannot be part of the big deals. So we face it from time to time. So it was not a surprise. What I appreciated about it was an opportunity to educate people about competition law, the Competition Act, and its implication on transactions of this nature. But that it was a controversy was not surprising at all.
The principal goal for many of competition law is to ensure that trade remains free and markets are kept open. Not a lot is being placed, particularly on this aspect of public interest. Many actually look at it and say, well, the public interest portion should really be supplementary, right? Otherwise, you're going to plunge competition law into chaos where you're having ideological debates. How do you respond to that?
Well, there are people who take that view, who say that competition law should concern itself with efficiency, competitiveness in markets, innovation, and things like that. That's the school of thought you find in countries like the US and generally Western countries. But there is a school of thought in competition law that says you must balance the efficiency benefits of competition with the broader public interest. So what do people want? People want low prices, but they also want jobs, right? So in South Africa, most people also want transformation of industries. So one has to balance all of these. So South Africa, the South African policymakers and parliament have taken the second option, that of balancing all of these things. You want the international competitiveness of the economy. You want it to be efficient. You want it to be dynamic and growing, but you also want it to be inclusive. In other words, you want the workers to enjoy the benefits of an efficient economy. You want a transformation, black people participating, women, and so on. So we embraced a much broader perspective on competition law. It's not just about efficiency. It's efficiency plus other public benefits.
Yeah. On the timing of it, I mean, the Competition Commission choosing to enforce this public interest provision, particularly at this time and on this particular deal, which many are saying would have dire implications, especially if we're saying South Africa is open for business, and then investors are going to look at this and say, but you guys are really not.
Nobody really doubts that South Africa is open to business. Actually, South Africa is one of the most liberal countries you can come to invest. The issue here is that you had an empowered firm, so 68% PEE in an entity, and that empowerment was going to be wiped out at the stroke of a signature. And we went to the parties and said, you need to mitigate against this. It's a reversal of what has been progress in transformation in this area. And the parties couldn't reach an agreement with the commission at that time. And so we said, go back and think about it. If you cannot reach an agreement with us, we are prepared to block this transaction and therefore forgo the foreign direct investment if it comes at such a huge cost to us. And we must be prepared as a country. Transformation doesn't come without a cost. So if you have an FDI that wipes out, for an example, participation of black people, of women, and so on, we have to be prepared to say, when we balance things here, it doesn't really work in our interest. And that's what we did here. And what is nice about it is actually the parties went back, they considered our objections, and when they came back to us, we accepted what they proposed.
Yeah, and that's quite key here, I suppose, in a sense that when you look at those conditions that the group now have addressed in that particular presentation they made to the tribunal in August, do they then go far enough to address those concerns that initially made you block this deal?
You see, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Others are saying, don't do anything about transformation. Others are saying, are you going far enough? So we are in this unenviable position to balance these two positions. And in this instance, I think we arrived at what we thought was the right balance. It's clear that the architect of the structure was that the guys wanted to keep shareholding at the top level of the entity. And to some extent, we allowed them to do that. We only insisted on a 5% empowerment for workers. But we also said to promote BEE and blacks in the value chain, they must sell the meat plant that supplies them. Remember, these guys are selling burgers. So for every burger that they sell, that burger would have been supplied by a black person who now will buy the meat plant. So one of the conditions is that the meat plant must be bought by a black owned enterprise. So it became a win-win situation for us. You have a black supplier now who has an opportunity of a Burger King platform to sell burgers or meat towards this platform. And Burger King preserves its ownership of the top structure, albeit with a 5% employee share scheme. Yeah. So I think it's a reasonable balance, but I don't expect everybody to be happy with it.
The Competition Commissioner, Thembi Nkosi Bonagele, with us. We'll continue in a moment. We'll take your views as well tonight with the conditions now placed by the Competition Tribunal. How do you feel? Does it address that very important imperative of the transformation of the economy? Does it go far enough to address the question of the public interest concerns that led to this particular deal being blocked in the first place? You can